Welcome back to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we are Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on our upcoming topics. We have some guest interviews coming up, some topics based on your guys' questions, so look out for those by subscribing. You could DM us with questions and topic suggestions so that we then answer them on the podcast at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. And today we have a very special topic with a very special guest. Dare I say our favorite guest and occasional co-host, Dave Levinson, friend of the podcast.
Really? I'm your favorite?
I mean, is that obvious?
That just makes me feel so good. Yeah, thank you for having me again. I'm very excited for this episode.
I know. We've been, I feel like, planning this for a couple months now at this point.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure last year I asked to come on for this episode and you said yes, and then you just forgot to actually have me on, and all of a sudden the episode was out, and I was very confused.
Oh,
That
that's
is
right.
exactly what happened.
So I made sure that did not happen again this year.
This is the Oscar episode. I love the Oscars. I feel like we all love the Oscars.
I love the Oscars. I'm a huge Oscars guy.
We'll get into it. The
We'll get
Oscars
into that.
air this coming Sunday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I now care about. And before we start to get into it, let's get into our This Week's in Writings.
This Week in Writing.
Well, my This Week in Writing is definitely nothing interesting, but it is just that I started writing something new this week, like actual writing pages in Final Draft.
That is literally the most exciting thing that could happen in the scope of our podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's like I'm feeling jazzed. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really excited. The possibilities are endless. I have not yet reached. I feel far away from that like valley of deep dark depression that I know is lurking just over the horizon, but I'm not there yet. And it's just I'm feeling positive, and it's just I think that it reminded me how I feel like I've been writing treatments for a while. I've kind of been in like a treatment zone for a while. And this getting into this actual script just reminded me how I feel like when I'm writing a treatment, it is like I am exploring this world and these characters from far off. I feel removed to an extent. And then once you're in the script, I feel like I've opened a portal and actually stepped into that world. And I'm now living in this world with these characters. And it's just the best feeling after sort of watching this world from afar, if that makes sense.
It makes the most sense, and that was like the best articulation
Yeah,
of
that was pretty good.
that experience I've ever heard. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Get ready.
So I'm in a good mood coming into this one.
That's awesome. My entire day was writing a treatment, so yeah,
I'm
that
sorry.
sounds great.
Well, I just wanted to say that we submitted our script we were working on together. That's
a
all.
huge accomplishment.
Wait, you submitted it to the reps?
Yeah.
Oh shit! You did not tell me that. That's huge.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I forgot to call my manager, John, about it because I was supposed to give him a call to discuss the notes process moving forward because we're, this is interesting for us. And I think it's all there's a relief when you submit something to the reps. And I feel like we've been talking about this on the podcast for so long that now I'm bringing everybody along for the ride of what's happening with this script. And that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah! This podcast is getting off to a roaring start.
Yeah, 100%. We're amazing. You sent me the draft of like your final tweaks,
Yeah.
and I was like, I could land first, or I could do this now. We could just get it out into the world like while I'm in the air, and that like it felt extra good to do it then because it just like I felt so accomplished. But
For sure.
I even paid for Wi-Fi just so I could email you the script.
I appreciate that. I will say, I knew you were on the airplane and you said, hey, let's like fire this off like soon or whatever today. And I was doing something, but I went back home to get it done because I was thinking there is no way Tasha's going to be on an airplane getting this done. And I'm going to just be putzing around driving through LA and like doing nothing. So it was exciting. That's it.
It's super exciting. But yeah, we don't know what to do now because you have a different manager than I have. And so part of us are like, maybe we do notes separately because our managers have very different personalities. Or I think both of our managers are like, I just want to do it together. And we're both like, is this a recipe for disaster to have both of these people in the same room together giving notes?
Together strikes me as the way to go.
Oh, interesting.
That to me seems far more efficient than getting notes separately and then having to kind of put them together, and that feels like that feels like making one big group conversation into multiple different conversations.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like you can iron this out in a group setting. Am I wrong?
I think our feeling, I think what's interesting is both of our managers had the same reaction, which is like, well, what if the other manager gives you bad notes? I don't want you doing bad notes that the other manager told you to do.
I think what we had talked about, not that this is now we're just in the weeds on this, is that we would get on a call with each of our managers. Like you and I would be on with Jay-Z, you and I would be on with Michelle, right? And then get the notes. But they would have already talked beforehand to kind of go over what the notes were.
That makes sense too, to me.
That could work.
That's what you suggested. What do you mean?
Listen, I was jet lagged. I don't know what I said.
It was
That
before
sounds
you
great.
left. No, I'm just kidding.
Regardless, we're going to get notes. And
All right.
we'll bring the podcast along for that ride as well. But right now, we're on a high, like Dave is saying. We're going to get notes. We're going to be at a serious low. And I am not excited for that moment, so I hope they take a while to read it.
I bet there's nothing crazy. It's in a really good place.
I don't know, man.
I was reminded by the last time I sent my manager a spec, and it's been years. It was Death Spell, I think is the last spec that I sent her. Completed spec.
Death Spell.
You remember that?
Yeah, that was a cool script.
Yeah.
But yeah, that feels like a long time ago.
Just rubbing it in.
Because she killed it. She killed it, and I've never revised it. I've never done anything with it. It's just dead because she murdered my soul in the notes that she gave me, and I could never recover. So, that's on the table as a possibility here. So I've tasked Josh with not letting me get there, and vice versa. And now, Dave, you're a part of this.
It's not going to be like that. It's going to be all good. It's going to be all positive. They're going to love it.
Okay.
How could they not? It's an incredible concept and it's executed so well.
All right, what's your This Week in Writing, Tasha?
All right, listen. This is an extreme right turn, but I was in London this last week, and I visited Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, and I have things to say about it, okay? Do you have patience for this?
Wait, are you about to say Shakespeare was overrated or something?
I mean, absolutely not. If anything, underrated. But, so we went to the Globe, and just a little bit of history of the Globe. If you go there, it's separated from the city. It's on the river. It's on the Thames River, and and the rest of London is sort of like on the other side. And back when the Globe existed in the early 1600s, that northern side of the city was London, and then the southern side where the Globe sits actually wasn't London at the time. It was Surrey, and it was described to me as being like Las Vegas, where like anything goes. There was gambling, there were hookers, there was like bear fights and fist fights, and like it was crazy down there, right? And theater was part of the craziness that you would go to. It was not permitted on the other side of the river, only permitted in this like dirty Las Vegas section. And so if you ever go to the Globe Theater, or you just see like Shakespeare in Love, which does this really well, replicates this really well, they would like basically have the rabble stand around the stage, and then there would be a few rows where people could sit. And it was in this kind of dodecahedron shape with an open ceiling. So it was open to the air, and then people would stand for the most part. But again, because it was in this district, people would go to the theater to party. So it wouldn't be like I'm going to the theater to watch a show. It's like I'm going to the theater to like kind of watch a show in the background, but me and Dave are going to play cards, and me and Josh are going to catch up about what happened this week, and we're just going to have like this rager. We're going to have beer and whatever we want. And that meant that people weren't often paying attention to the play. That then meant that Shakespeare had to write plays that would A, continually entertain people so they would pay attention to the words, but B, grasp their attention when they were distracted. And so when you read Shakespeare, there are kind of like ridiculous moments where a character will die, for instance, and be like, I die, I die, I die. And they like say it like 5 times. The reason being, it's like to get the attention of the guy in the back drinking beer and playing cards with his buddy, he had to be like, hey, by the way, this character is dying. Start to pay attention now. The script is changing. And I just found that fascinating because another piece is that he knew, like, let's say a character walks to the front of the stage, says something, and then has to walk behind and then upstairs to the balcony. He knew how many steps it would take to get up there so that he would write lines such that it would like occupy that space perfectly for them to get to the balcony. And I think the point of all of this, besides me nerding out about it, is to say that even in Shakespeare's era, he was writing to appease an audience and to make it as easy as possible for an audience to understand. And I think we often struggle with and talk about on the podcast how like we don't want to lower ourselves or don't want to dumb things down or be too on the nose. But I think a part of what he did so well was find a way to be on the nose, to like appeal to the common lowest denominator, but also be extremely elevated at the same time, which I think is A, his genius, and B, something we try to replicate. But it was just a good reminder that even back then, you had to take the audience into consideration and write for them and not ignore them.
Damn. It's like Shakespeare was dealing with a short attention span already.
Yes. Yes.
People doing other things while something is on in the background.
Yes. It's not new. I love that.
No.
I would totally be that guy crushing a beer, not paying attention. Like he died?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yep.
What's your other one?
Okay, the other one is I went to Bath as well. And Bath is where Jane Austen lived for a while, and she wrote a couple novels that are set in Bath. Mary Shelley also lived there for a short time. She famously wrote Frankenstein. And I went to the Mary Shelley Museum, which was awesome. It was so awesome. I learned so much about her that I did not know. It's just another reiteration of how traveling is so key to what we do as writers, because it completely opened my mind up to a million ideas that had to do with Mary Shelley, that didn't have to do with Mary Shelley, that made me want to research this thing more, this like tiny little detail that was in one of the, you know, the plaques or whatever. And then it's just, you're just filled with fire after you leave something like that. And I just want to reiterate how important it is to leave your desk.
Absolutely. I had a semi-similar experience over the holidays when we were visiting my wife's family in Europe. I have this TV idea that's in a very, very early stage, but it's essentially inspired by stories that I've heard from my wife about her high school experience at a boarding school in Europe. And so while we were there over the holidays, she took me to the town where the boarding school was, and we like drove around I didn't get to go inside, unfortunately, but we drove around the outside of the school and just really took the town in and, you know, walked around the town. And yeah, like you said, it completely opens up the idea to so many just specifics and details that would have never been let in without actually being there.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Travel for the win.
Travel for the win.
By the way, I'm going to be thinking about the Shakespeare attention span thing, because that's smart, because we still do that now. It's like trying to hit moments in acts it's like cheer moments.
Yeah. All right. The Oscars.
The Oscars! You got to get pumped up.
How do you guys feel about the Oscars?
I love the Oscars. I'm a huge Oscar guy. Are you talking about how do I feel about it this year specifically, or just in general?
In general.
Oh, I love the Oscars. Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl for me.
Yeah, it is like the Super Bowl for us.
Like, I also love the Super Bowl, but it's just awesome having the Super Bowl and the Oscars always so close to each other. You know, I think the Super Bowl is usually in February. The Oscars are usually in either late February or early March. And so it's just like these two different excuses, essentially, to have friends over and just eat horrific snacks and drink a lot and watch something very entertaining that goes on for like 3.5 or 4 hours. There's obviously like the rooting interest in the Super Bowl, and then for the Oscars, I love doing the Oscar pools, and you know, everybody fills out their own ballot, and it's like a fantasy sport almost. I fucking love it.
It is. Yeah.
I love it too.
I should also add that the other reason that I love it so much is because it's a night of celebration for, the what has literally been my favorite thing in the world for my entire life, which is movies. So there's the love of that also means a lot to me.
I love them, but I also have a love-hate relationship with the Oscars. I've probably complained about to you, and maybe even on the podcast previously, that sometimes I don't think the Oscars celebrate movies that keep the industry afloat, and I think that sometimes they get in their own way. But having said all of that, I love the Oscars, and I will be watching them, and I will be snacking, and I will be celebrating movies. I'm all in. I do have some specific thoughts about this year's Oscars, but I'm not sure that was what that was geared towards. I think overall I'm all in.
Okay.
Tasha, how do you feel about the Oscars?
I used to have that childlike wonder with the Oscars, and I'm now jaded and haven't watched them, to be honest, in a while. So
Whoa.
in prep for this, I went back ages, like 20 plus years ago, and then just flipped through all the Best Picture nominees, like through my high school era, college, grad school, etc. And I used to see every single Oscar movie that came out. It was just like standard operating procedure for a Tasha year. So that when Oscar time did come around, I felt extremely invested. But then I do remember there was a distinct time, like a literal show, where I remember I felt like, I'm never fucking watching this show again. This fucking sucks. The people who win definitely are not the most worthy. This is all just like pre-programmed bullshit. No, thank you. And I know that all culminated at one particular show, but I also know that was building over time. Like just a few people would lose that I was like, that doesn't make any sense why they lost, or like why that person won specifically makes no sense. That's rigged. So I don't know, guys.
What you're touching on is actually something that I also love about the Oscars, is that I love, you see this now when you get into Hollywood, of the politicking that is involved from producers and trying to get people to vote. And this is part of the Oscar parties, and this is why certain actors and actresses and producers come out, and now you see them on being interviewed more often. Like there's something that I really enjoy about that, because it's kind of jockeying to get a nomination, and then you're trying to win people over, and you're like a feel-good story and your comeback story. There is a manipulation in all of that I think I appreciate.
I agree that I have actually also come to really enjoy that aspect of it over the last 10 years or so working in Hollywood. And it's also I guess in my head I compare it a little bit to also following politics in like the 2 years leading up to a presidential election, and like gaming out, who the nominee is going to be based on the primaries in these states, right? Whereas with the Oscars, which is this aspect of the Oscars I did not know about before, moving here and working in this industry and paying attention. But like you can game out who the winners are probably going to be based on all of the award shows that come before. You've got the SAG Awards, the DGA Awards, the PGA Awards, the Golden. It's like, who has the momentum? Oh, but wait, one movie can start off with a momentum, but then, there's, another big win for someone else on the next award show that just totally, flips the thing on its head. And so it's become almost a month or two, maybe even a little bit more, of just exciting sort of, like a gaming out of what the ultimate results are going to be, which I just kind of geek out over that stuff a little bit, I guess.
This is what is so interesting about this year's Oscars is
Tasha's just shaking her head.
She's
disgusted with us.
Yeah, she is. But this is what's so interesting about this year is that the stuff surrounding Amelia Perez, that it was the front runner, and then some stuff happened with the actress, and it just that may have torpedoed the entire.
Yeah, that was literally like an October surprise, throwing it back to politics.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, Tasha, what's interesting is that I feel like if I went without watching the Oscars, I would feel guilty. My chest would be tight. I'd be like, what is happening? It's Sunday evening and I'm not watching the Oscars.
I do not feel that way. I feel like, I have a free day. Amazing. Everyone it's like Super Bowl Sunday, like you were saying. No one's on the road. LA's free. I can just do whatever I want. I'll say something that was interesting in going back through all these nominees was I started realizing that around the year 2014 was when I stopped watching Oscar movies. And 2014 is when I started working full-time as a screenwriter, which I feel like, is that a correlation of my life, like being too busy? Or is it because the nominees stopped being interesting to me because there are like no action movies anymore. There's like Gladiator used to be on it.
Yes.
Like Zero Dark 30 was like this really cool sort of like action-y thriller, and Glorious Bastards used to be on it. Hugo was on it, which is like a freaking YA like fantasy-esque movie. District 9 was a fucking Best Picture nominee in 2009. Like, these are my Oscars. And then I feel like now we don't have variety. Everything just feels like an indie drama, whether it literally is or just feels like it is, and I don't like it.
Well, if I may push back a little.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
Like, Oppenheimer just won last year. Barbie was nominated. I can't
Oppenheimer
remember
is
what else
a bullshit. It's a drama.
Top Gun was nominated 2 years ago.
That was weird. That was weird.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't think is like a stuffy drama indie. I don't know. That seems like a wild curveball.
It's an indie weird movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, a really original, really weird indie movie. Not like
I loved it. I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's not like a Gladiator. It's not. It's different. They feel different now.
So I know we're about to get into some topics, but just a little bit of a spoiler alert, because you're touching on, I think, a bigger issue is we haven't seen all of the Oscar movies. And I also have kind of fizzled out over time with some of the movies. I just haven't seen all of them. And I've wondered, I'm like, is this because streaming? Is this because I just don't want to watch certain movies? Like, I don't know what it is, but I did used to always watch, I'd go out of my way to watch all of these movies. And now I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never seen The Shape of Water, and that won Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, we were texting about this. I still try to make an effort to see as many as I can. Certainly, since having my daughter the last 2 years, I've achieved far fewer than usual. Like right now, I think there's 10 Best Picture nominees, and right now I've only seen 4 of them. I watched Sonora last night, you guys. I didn't tell you that.
Wow.
So yeah, I've seen 4 of them now.
I look forward to talking about that.
We can talk about it. I'm going to throw some curveballs at you guys, by the way.
All right, I'm excited. Okay, so we're not going to go through every category. Obviously, that would take like a week. But we're going to do the highlights today. Talk about what our Oscars would look like if we were creating them, producing them. So let's start at the quote-unquote bottom. Best Actor and Actress categories.
Wow, the bottom.
Yeah. So for the Oscars this year, the Best Actor category is Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. And I will be honest, I have no idea what 2 of these movies even are. And I've only seen one of them. So not knowing anything, my pick would be Sebastian Stan, just because that feels like a crazy fucking role that feels abnormally difficult and unusual in our time. But what do you guys think?
I'm just here to go to bat for The Apprentice and Sebastian Stan. I think he was fantastic as Donald Trump. He really was. Like, and he doesn't do this kind of like wacky impersonation, anything like that. So I'm all in on Sebastian Stan. I don't think he'll win, but I think it. And this list, by the way, this is my list. I'm not even changing the Best Actor list. I haven't seen enough movies to make an alternate list to this. Dave, go ahead.
Sebastian Stan, swept for us.
Wow.
He'd be my pick also. Like you said, Josh, I feel like it would have been easy for that performance to fall into sort of a caricature impression territory, and I don't think it ever did. And I thought it was a phenomenal performance.
All right.
So can I give you what my Best Actor nominees would be if I were producing the Oscars?
Yes.
Yes.
Dev Patel from Monkey Man, Tom Hanks from Here, and I will.
What?
I will.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to caveat this.
What?
This is the weirdest caveat. I've not seen this movie.
What the fuck? What?
That's a hell of a caveat.
I just watched this movie. I haven't had a reaction like this in a very, very long time.
How was he? Was he bad? He wasn't bad, was he?
No, he's Tom Hanks, but what?
Okay, there's my reason. To me, there's no way that's not like a really difficult performance. Like, there's no camera movement. There's like no shots. It's just him acting his ass off in a single room, right? And having to hold your attention.
Yeah. Well, not really, because not many people have seen the movie, but okay.
Attention was not held.
And that's, by the way, from Robert Zemeckis, like one of my all-time favorite directors.
Yeah. Rafe Fiennes is on there for Conclave. I'd throw Hugh Grant in there for Heretic.
Oh.
I don't know if I totally believe in that, but I'm gonna do it.
He's in mine as well.
Okay. And then, outlier opinion, Ryan Gosling for Fall Guy.
I did not see that.
What?
I know.
Greatest movie of the year.
Was Fall Guy from 2024?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
I had him on my list as well, by the way.
What is your list, Josh?
All right, so we got Gyllenhaal from Roadhouse.
Yes.
The abs. The abs.
We've got Gosling from The Fall Guy.
Yep.
I put Jude Law from The Order.
I have not seen that yet, but that's like near the top of my list. I'm very excited for that movie.
I have the actor, his name is Gabriel LaBelle, and he was in Saturday Night, which was a movie I really liked, by the way. I feel like that kind of got...
We just watched that. I like that a lot as well.
Right? He was pretty good.
Yeah, he's very good.
And then...
Yeah, let's do it. I feel like I know who it is. Go. Yes. Hit me.
Who do you think it is, Tasha?
Dude from Twister. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah!
Glenn Powell?
Not Hitman.
No, not Hitman.
I was going to say, he could have had 2 entries.
Not Hitman.
I would almost argue that he'd be more deserving from Hitman.
Not as good of an acting job in that movie, in my opinion.
Okay. I defer.
So those are my best actors of the year.
Dave.
All right. My Academy came out with this. We got Rafe Fiennes from Conclave, Hugh Grant from Heretic, Jesse Eisenberg from The Real Pain, Connor Sherry from Snack Shack, and then the winner, Sebastian Stan.
Oh, for some reason with this one category, by the way, that's a very strong category you just laid out, or list you laid out. For some reason, I basically like ignored the actual nominees, and this was like the one category I did because I was like, oh, I like these other movies. Mm-hmm. Sebastian Stan absolutely would be. I don't know why I didn't even put him on my list. He was definitely like the best performance, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Best actress: Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here; Demi Moore, The Substance; Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez; Cynthia Erivo, Wicked; Mickey Madison. What's her name?
I think it's Mikey.
Mikey Madison from Anora. What's shocking to me about this is that when I saw the trailer for Anora, I thought that is a raunchy B-movie comedy. But it is apparently not. Apparently, it is an Oscar-worthy movie, which I don't understand. But it's because I've not seen it. I've also not seen The Substance, which I feel like, to me, is going to win based on what people are saying. And I hope she does because she's incredible. What do you guys think?
Yeah, my choice, I watched Nora last night, so it's super fresh, would be Mikey Madison. She's pretty incredible in it. I also feel like Demi Moore is going to win, and I have not seen The Substance yet, that would be next on my list probably of the Oscar movies that I want to watch, because I know that's supposed to be pretty crazy.
I have seen The Substance.
And
I think she's going to win, Demi Moore.
Yeah.
This goes back to the politicking that we talked about earlier. And I think she is a feel-good story. She's a comeback story. And I think she gave a good performance. And I think she'll win.
And she also gave a great, almost like viral Golden Globe speech, which goes back to the politicking. Like that, I feel like that can like sway the game late in the game. Because I do feel like Mikey Madison. I feel like when Anora first came out, everything that I heard was that like Anora was going to win Best Picture and Mikey Madison was like automatically going to win Best Actress. And then a couple more months unfold, and yeah, the narrative changes. But Mikey Madison does give an incredible performance.
All right. Do you have a sub list?
I have a sub list. Kind of looks similar. It would have Cynthia Erivo on there. I don't know. I know Wicked is just whatever. It's kind of just this big blockbuster musical, but she made me feel things. Like, I thought the subtlety of her acting in that movie was actually pretty incredible. And she did a lot with very little in terms of the acting in a scene, and I loved it. Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, I freaking loved her, and I'm really sad she's apparently a racist. But she's just so good in that movie. And then I would add Lupita Nyong'o from Quiet Place Day One. That's all.
It's a solid list.
I only just want to add one person. Zendaya from Challengers.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm throwing her in. And I wish Cynthia Erivo won because I loved Wicked. I freaking cried in Wicked 3 times. I've seen Wicked many times. And caught me off guard, man.
She's fantastic, right?
She was unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave?
My list of nominees would be Willa Fitzgerald from Strange Darling, Chloe East from Heretic, Naomi Scott from Smile 2, Maria Bakalova from The Apprentice.
Wow.
And then the winner, Mikey Madison.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the most Dave list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I feel like of all of my lists, that was the most Dave by far.
All right.
This may be controversial, but the next category I'm going to go with, because this is a screenwriting podcast, is actually Best Picture. Since screenplay is sort of our, pinnacle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do those last. So Best Picture nominees are Amelia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, The Substance, Dune Part 2, Wicked, Anora, and The Brutalist. And I have seen 4 of these movies. So given what I know...
Which 4 have you seen, Tasha?
Amelia Perez, Dune, Wicked, Conclave.
Okay.
I would pick either Conclave or Amelia Perez, and I have reasons for both.
Lay them out. What are they?
Amelia Perez is so original. It's just so different. It's a crime thriller, but I've never seen a crime thriller like it. I thought it was so tense, but it's a musical. Musicals aren't tense. They're fun. They're musicals, but this was tense. Like every time something would happen, I wouldn't know what was happening next, and I loved how original it felt. Conclave was an exercise in editing and composition and music. It was just like a masterclass in filmmaking. I thought it was so tense the entire time, but if I pitched it back to you, it's like nothing happens. And I sometimes really love movies like that.
Yeah. Well, I think Anora is going to win Best Picture.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen all the Best Pictures, by the way, but I just think Anora is going to win. Are we laying out our alternate universe, our Best Pictures? Are we doing that?
Go for it.
Okay. Here's my Best Pictures of the year. Wicked, The Order, Twisters, Challengers, Roadhouse, Conclave, The Fall Guy, and The Apprentice.
It's a good list.
That is a very good list.
Yeah.
Solid movies in there.
Yeah. I almost threw Carry On, but I didn't want to water it down. Damn entertaining.
Of the Best Picture nominees actually nominated, which one do you think will win?
I think Anora's going to win, but
you said
Wicked,
that,
Anora, but I think Wicked was my favorite movie of the year.
Got it. Dave?
Yeah, I think of the actual nominees, I think that Anora is going to win also, and I think that it should win. But also, of the movies that I've seen, and I've only seen 4 of them. I've seen, let me just go through. I watched Anora last night, and I have seen Conclave, which would be a very close second for me, Tasha, for all the reasons that you laid out. I really, really enjoyed Conclave. and I saw Amelia Perez and and Dune Part 2. I did not like Amelia Perez as much as you did. I liked Amelia Perez more than I thought that I would, because I feel like I went in with a very, very low expectation just
Yeah.
based on things that I had heard. And it did keep me watching and wondering where it was going the whole time, which I wasn't even really expecting. I also really just don't like musicals, and especially I feel like that style of musical, I guess, where they would just be in the middle of a conversation and suddenly they would start singing to each other. Not not really my sweet spot. But anyways, my personal best picture category would be Conclave, Honora, A Real Pain, which I really, really loved a lot, Long Legs,
Ooh.
Heretic, Juror Number Two,
Oh, I love that movie.
which was just, yeah, that was just like an amazing throwback to a 90s courtroom
Yeah.
thriller that we needed for a very long time, I think.
Yeah.
This little indie coming of age movie, Snack Shack, which is just phenomenal. And then my winner would be Strange Darling, which I just loved. My favorite movie of the year.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, my best picture list.
Let's go, Tasha. Bring it.
Conclave, Amelia Perez, Heretic, Roadhouse,
Yes.
Twisters,
Yes.
and Fall Guy. And Fall Guy wins.
All right, I need to bump Fall Guy up to the top of the list, clearly.
Dave, I think you're going to love it.
I saw that movie more than any movie this year. I saw it multiple times. I loved it. I think Dave will love it too, yeah.
Yeah. It's a love letter to movies.
That's one of those where I really, really meant to see it. And Joanna and I feel like there were multiple, date nights where we were like, oh, Fall Guy. And just for whatever reason, it never happened. And then at some point just fell by the wayside. But I need to bump it back up, clearly.
Bump it.
I just want to say one last thing about the Best Picture, even though I touched on this earlier, is I wish Best Picture was a little wider and people's minds were a little more open to celebrating movies like The Fall Guy or, okay, maybe not Twisters, I understand, but you have to take into consideration the sheer enjoyment that you get from a movie, not to mention the box office that a movie might make. I feel like that's significant. It means people are going back to see it.
I would argue that a lot of times box office does not necessarily correlate with quality.
Yeah, that's true.
It happens sometimes. Like last year, Oppenheimer with the win, but I would not want Marvel movie number 57 to be a regular appearance in the Best Picture nominee.
Honestly, if Endgame was nominated 6 years ago, I probably would have been okay with it. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
It would make sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That was just, they put the culmination of 20 movies. That was perfect.
Yeah, it's an incredible feat. Okay, I'm going to get into Best Adapted Screenplay now. Amelia Perez, the writer, director Jacques Audiard, which I'm definitely mispronouncing because it's French. At first, he wrote an opera that was loosely adapted from a chapter of a novel written by Boris Rezon. And I think that is fascinating. What a fascinating sort of turn to just read a book, be like, ooh, this chapter is interesting. This chapter makes me think of this. I'm going to write an opera about that. No, you know what? I'm going to turn that opera into a feature-length screenplay. Just that process is great. Conclave, written by Peter Strahan, based on the 2016 novel by Robert Harris. Strahan also wrote Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Sing Sing, written by Clint Bentley and Greg Quedar, based on an Esquire article called The Sing Sing Follies by John H. Richardson. So that's interesting. Nickel Boys was written by Jocelyn Barnes. The director, Ramel Ross, is also credited as writing. It's based on The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. A Complete Unknown is the last one, written by Jay Cox and James Mangold, who also directed. It's based on the 2015 book Dylan Goes Electric by Elijah Wald. Guys, who is your best adapted screenplay winner?
Here's the thing. I haven't read any of the screenplays. I've seen some of the movies.
Uh-huh. That's what we're all going off of. I don't think any of us have had the time to read any of these, though it would be a pleasure to do so.
I know, but I think that's an important aspect.
Feels like it'd be an important step.
It does.
Wait, who's yours, Tasha? I feel like I've been stepping on everyone's toes here.
Amelia Perez, because I just find that adaptation process to be so interesting. And again, I find the movie itself to be so incredibly original in the way that it is conceived and written and told as a story that wins for me. Every other one on here, and I've not seen Sing Sing, and potentially that one has the ability to be a bit more original because it's also about performance. But to me, everything else is just like, it's basically just a really well done adaptation of the story. Amelia Perez is fucking bizarre, and that wins for me.
That's a strong argument.
It is a very strong argument. I think I'm going Conclave.
Yeah, Conclave would be my pick.
I'm so curious to read that book and then to read the script or just think about how the movie was composed, because obviously it's going to be very different, but how different?
I was so into Conclave. It was so engaging to me. And those are movies for me that I really, when they're done well, I love them. And like the acting is so on point. Everyone is performing at a high level. And I think that speaks also to the writing of, I just, to me, that was just such a strong movie. And like some of the ideas are kind of dense in Conclave, but it doesn't feel that way. And I think that's really hard to pull off what Conclave did for me and other people.
I feel like you took what could be a really, I guess, kind of dry subject matter and essentially turned it into a really taut political thriller.
Yeah,
that
fair.
had me on the edge of my seat for the entire movie.
Fair. Okay, best screenplay.
Yeah,
The best category of the whole thing.
absolutely.
A Real Pain by Jesse Eisenberg, who also directed. It is a personal film about two Jewish cousins who go through their ancestral lands through Poland, and it was very important to him personally to honor his family, so like this movie comes from a very personal place, and I'm saying kind of the backstory of each one because I think it's interesting as writers where these best screenplay nominees come from. Second one is The Substance by Coralie. I'm gonna butcher her last name.
Don't do it.
What is it?
I don't know.
What is it?
She's French. I don't try that.
Coralie F. I can't do French. You know I can't. Coralie also directed. She wrote it over 2 years. She herself was motivated by all the societal pressures that she herself was experiencing, her friends were experiencing, about women's bodies, about aging, and all that comes with that. September 5, Tim Fellbaum, a Swiss filmmaker, wrote that. I say filmmaker because, interestingly, he's a writer, director, and cinematographer. And also, interestingly, his movie before this was a big sci-fi movie. And I just find those two things to not go together. But also, when you combine people who think differently in different spaces, it can end up really well. And it's always very interesting. Of course, Nora by Sean Baker, who also directed, produced, and edited the film. He said that he was inspired by the story of a Russian-American newlywed who is kidnapped for collateral. And according to Wikipedia, he was also inspired because he had been an editor in 2000 and 2001 of wedding videos. And one of them included Russian Americans in New York. And as part of his process, he also hired a Canadian writer to consult on the story. Her name was Andrea Werhun, who is also an actress, but is known for having written a memoir about having been a sex worker. So he had someone like that with him consulting on the script and the story. Finally, The Brutalist by Mona Fastvold and Brady Corbett. Could be either. Don't know French. He also directed and produced it. They are a writing team. They are filmmakers themselves and have both written, directed, produced, acted in their own stuff together throughout their careers. His writing credits, interesting enough, started kind of in earnest in 2014, and he has other things before that, but 2014 was when his first feature film appears on his IMDb. And on that one, his partner Mona directed and co-wrote that. So they're clearly creative partners and have been doing this a long time. And this was just kind of the next thing he wanted to tackle. So those are the best screenplay nominees. Winner. I've not seen any of them, so I don't know, guys.
I think the winner is going to be A Real Pain. I think so. Either The Substance or A Real Pain, but I'm going with Eisenberg.
Not a Nora.
No. Well, curveball.
I've only seen Anora and A Real Pain, which were both fantastic. Two of my favorite movies of the year. It's honestly kind of a coin flip. I think I would go Anora right now.
Okay.
Do you find it interesting that A Real Pain is on the best screenplay list, but not on a best actor or best picture list?
Yes. This is also another thing that's always confused me about the Oscars. It's like when a best picture doesn't get a best director, or when a best screenplay doesn't get a best picture, or it's almost insulting to the actors if you get a best screenplay, but then you don't get nominated for best actor or actress. It's all so confusing.
Well, Kieran Culkin is nominated for best supporting actor.
This is true. But I'm just saying, in general, there's been times when there's been best...
Can I counter that opinion with sort of a contrary opinion?
Damn right you can.
No one may agree with, but I actually like that aspect of it because there's something to movies that we always talk about of it being so collaborative, and every person adds sort of a new layer to the movie or show that you're making. And a best screenplay could possibly not be the best directed thing. Jesse might not have done the best job at directing that movie to elevate it to a point where you watch it and as a complete whole, that is a best picture. However, the script could be fucking killer, and apparently it was. That's why Kieran Culkin decided to do it, even though he really didn't want to do it. He just loved that script and wanted it to be made.
Yeah.
I will say that I think personally, I feel like it's a little bit of a snub that A Real Pain did not get nominated for Best Picture. That I just, when I woke up on, Oscar announcement day and saw that, I was a little bit surprised by that.
I can see that.
But Kieran Culkin, I think, is definitely going to win Best Supporting Actor for that. I feel like that's probably the biggest slam dunk going into Oscar night right now.
Yeah.
Now it's not going to happen, and I'm going to look like an idiot to your
for sure.
Moron.
Absolutely.
But that is my prediction.
All right, guys. So who are if you were producing the Oscars, your list for Best Screenplay?
Mine would be, and I did not separate between adapted and original here. So this is just screenplay in general. My nominees would be Heretic, Strange Darling, A Real Pain, Anora, and I would have Conclave as my winner.
I intentionally didn't do this, but now I think I know what my list is. I wanted to stay out of it a little bit because I just feel bad when you see the movie, but you haven't read the screenplay to the movie. And I feel like as a screenwriter,
totally get it.
I just have to put that out there. Okay.
We suck as screenwriting podcast hosts.
No. It's not that. All right. The Order. Love The Order, by the way.
It's your boy.
Conclave. Wicked.
Say it.
It is very hard to write a contained movie in an airport. I'm not going to say Carry On, but there is something to it. By the way, September 5, which I thought was September 5th up until this podcast, fantastic. Also in a very, I just watched it the other day, and so I'm going to throw that on my list as well. That's it. I think this list is good. This is a good list that they have.
Okay. Mine is Conclave, Amelia Perez. I also didn't differentiate between adapted. Heretic, fantastic job at being able to talk about religion in a way that wasn't boring and intense and amazing, and I just loved it. Also Twisters, because it could have just been a whatever action movie, but it's about something.
Yes.
It made me cry.
Yes.
And I don't believe this actually deserves to be on the list, this final one. This is an example where, Best Picture, yes. Screenplay, no. Fall Guy. It doesn't deserve to be here on the screenplay list, but I love it so.
An honorary nomination.
Yes.
Could you imagine if Fall Guy was nominated for like Best Picture?
I had no idea that you loved Fall Guy so much. I don't think I've ever heard you talk about it before this
Dave.
podcast.
Dave.
Is this your new nobody?
Yes. Not only have I seen it so many times, the last time I went, I needed to take a piece of it with me, and I bought one of those like 52-ounce drink things that they sell, because that's the only size they sell, and I drink every day with this Fall Guy cup.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's love.
It is.
I did
Okay.
know that you loved Fall Guy. I think you actually like it more than me. And I
Yeah,
love
I
Fall
do.
Guy, but you loved Fall Guy.
Listen, the reason why it doesn't deserve to be on the screenplay is only because of one scene that I feel like went too long and was a little self-serving. But other than that, I feel like flawless.
Wow. Do we do a Fall Guy breakdown?
Yes! I've been waiting for you to ask. Okay.
Okay. We're all excited for the Oscars. That's it.
Can I give you guys my Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress category? Because I actually put way more effort into those two than all of the other
Interesting.
categories.
I didn't even do it, so please go ahead.
I would say that those two categories took more effort than the other two for my own personal ones. For Best Supporting Actress, I have Aubrey Plaza from My Old Ass, which was fantastic and so heartfelt. Sophie Thatcher from Heretic, so good. Zoe Saldana from Amelia Perez. That was my one Amelia Perez shout out, Tasha. Toni Collette from Juror Number 2. And then the winner I gave to Danielle Deadweiler from The Piano Lesson, which was. Did either of you guys see that?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, Dave, you're such an auteur.
Uh-huh.
Such an auteur. It's a Netflix movie, but it's it's based on a play, and it's just very powerful. It's written and directed. I'm pretty sure written and I know directed by one of Denzel's sons. Yeah, not John David, but his other son. And then for Best Supporting Actor, I have Nicolas Cage from Long Legs.
Uh-huh.
Just a crazy performance.
Yeah.
Jeremy Strong from The Apprentice. So good. Stanley Tucci, because I just want to be best friends with Stanley Tucci, basically. And then an honorary nominee here. This is like a career achievement nomination for me. David Duchovny from Reverse the Curse. He directed it too.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's about the Red Sox. So like David Duchovny directed this movie about the Red Sox.
Holy shit. That's like perfect Dave movie.
Yeah.
And then for my winner, I have Kieran Culkin, who, as I predicted, is definitely no questions asked going to win on Sunday night.
That's a good list.
That's a great list.
Thank you.
Overall, can I ask, has this conversation changed your mind about the Oscars, either making you more excited or less excited, or neither?
I feel exactly the same.
It definitely hasn't made me less excited.
Yeah, same. I'm actually maybe marginally more excited.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like just talking about it gets me all jazzed up.
Yeah, I would say that your excitement, Dave, has made me really want to dig in and watch these movies this week so that I am up on them when Sunday comes along. I still have a week.
My excitement more than Josh's excitement?
Yeah, it's not like I wasn't excited.
It's because Dave is excited about the actual movies that are in the Oscars, and you're excited like I'm excited about movies that could be in the Oscars but aren't.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just an Oscar snob, is what it is.
This is your jam, though. Like, as Josh and I say, like, there's a Venn diagram wherein you like the same movies that we like, but there's this whole other side of that Venn diagram that, like, you just watch a lot more movies that Josh and I just, like, aren't even on, they're not on our radar. And that, to me, is why I typically don't like the Oscars, because I feel like they don't embody the kinds of movies that I enjoy watching and feel like are good movies.
What's interesting about that is I feel like the almost genre of Oscar movie is something that I look forward to earlier in the year. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait until the Oscar movies start coming out, like the movies that are going to be in the running. I'm excited for that season, I guess. Yeah, I just love the whole thing.
Interesting. Whereas Josh and I are excited about like summer blockbuster season.
Absolutely.
That was me as a kid. Not so much
What
anymore.
are you saying, Dave?
I think I'm saying that my inner child has died, and that I've lost my innocence, I guess, is what it sounds like. It sounds a lot more depressing for me than it does judgmental for you.
Damn.
Oh, go watch Fall Guy. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Quote of the day. I shall live badly if I do not write, and I shall write badly if I do not live. Francois Sagan. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter, and Blue Sky Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
Dave.
And I am Dave Levinson. I've given up all hope of becoming some sort of social media personality. So
let's be honest. Okay.
Yeah.
As always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.